Hello everyone, welcome to the Open Circle, welcome to the channel. I'm Matthew Millais Gray. So today the talk is about something very human, maybe some might think very ordinary, and yet can be strangely avoided in modern society. So the title is Before the Clock Runs Out, Making the Most of Fragile Time. So earlier I had learned of the passing of Marcia Lou Lucas, M-A-R-C-I-A-L-O-U-L-U-C-A-S, Marcia Lou Lucas, on the 27th of May 2026. And I found myself unexpectedly saddened and also thinking of Jean Houston, Jean-Houston, who transitioned on May 16, 2026. Now, Jean was involved in the human potential movement. So she co-founded with Masters the Foundation for Mind Research. So as a small gesture of remembrance, I've placed my original silver Star Wars box set where I can see it. It reminds me that some of the people who shape our lives do so from behind the scenes. Marcia Lucas was one of those rare artists whose work helped bring emotional depth, rhythm, humanity, and heart to stories that inspired generations. She was part of the Academy Award winning editing team that helped shape the original Star Wars and later contributed to Return of the Jedi, leaving an enduring mark on cinema. So for many of us, Star Wars was never only about spaceships and special effects. It was a story about family, about loss, courage, redemption, hope, and the struggle to overcome the forces of fear and harm. So those themes have accompanied people through some of the most difficult times and moments of their lives. So today I simply wish to express respect and gratitude, so my condolences to her family, friends, colleagues, and to all who loved her. May her memory continue to live through the stories she helped bring to life, and through the countless people who found inspiration, wonder, and meaning in a galaxy far, far away. Rest in peace, Marcia Lou Lucas. Also think that there's something rather beautiful about having a silver box set being out today. It's not a shrine. What can I say? It's not a shrine. It's not a shrine of nostalgia, but it's a reminder that creative works are often the result of many gifted hands, and that some of the most important contributions come from people whose names are not always the first ones remembered. Now, I mentioned I'm reflecting today on the lives of two remarkable women, actually more. But I wanted to mention two remarkable women whose contributions continue to ripple out long after their physical passing. So I learned also on May 16 of the transition of Jean Houston, a pioneering voice in the human potential movement, and I mentioned co-founder of the Foundation of Mind Research. So through Jean Houston's writings, teachings and explorations of human consciousness, she encouraged generations of people to look beyond perceived limitations and to consider the vast possibilities of human growth, creativity and awakening. I was encouraged to write to her by a friend of mine, and I'm glad I did. So, yeah. At first glance, you might say, these are women who have occupied very different worlds. Marcia, Jean, yet both help shape stories. One through the exploration of human consciousness and potential, and the other through the art of storytelling on film. Zoetrope. So both contributed to works that invited people to engage, to imagine something larger than themselves. So, yeah, I have a box set here, this small gesture. And it reminds me that the stories we inherit and the stories that we help create become part of a living continuum. So they influence how we think, how we love, how we face adversity, and how we envision the future. So perhaps this is one of the ways that human beings continue beyond death, not only through memory, but through influence, through ideas that are shared, through kindness passed on, kindness passed forward, through creativity that's expressed, and through courage that's awakened in others. Now, Jean Houston's work lives on wherever people continue exploring the frontiers of consciousness and human potential. Marcia Lou Lucas's work lives on wherever people are inspired by stories of hope, redemption, family, and the triumph of light over darkness. So both women leave behind legacies that continue to move through countless lives. May we honor them, not only by remembering them, but by carrying forward the best of what they helped bring into the world. So their lives are reminders that while every individual journey comes to an end, the effects of a life well lived can continue unfolding for generations. So in that sense, the conversation is never entirely over. It simply passes into new hands. So the theme today is before the clock runs out, making the most of fragile time. So I want to begin with a simple image. Let's imagine standing on a beach with people you love. So the tide is moving out, slowly moving out, almost invisibly. Now nobody notices it minute by minute, but hour by hour the shoreline changes. So most of us do not experience loss all at once. And where am I coming from? I'm just saying that human life is a little bit like that shore. We experience it through gradual changes. So it might be parents aging, or energy decreasing, conversations shorten, misunderstandings that accumulate, distance that grows gradually, and health becoming more uncertain, right? So many families today are carrying not only just aging, but trauma, religious trauma, spiritual trauma. Institutional trauma, psychological fragmentation, financial strain, isolation, exhaustion. Now the modern world promises connection while often producing disconnection. I have sometimes said, oh, you know the CEO of this computer corporation or this cell phone company, you know, they struggle picking up the phone and talking to their mama. And I use that as an illustration because I just am saying that there is this promise in the world of connection. Let's get connected. And the opposite happens. We get a world producing disconnection. Coming back to the clock keeps moving. So I want to speak not from a fantasy world, not fantasy religion, not fantasy technology, not fantasy immortality. I just want to speak about how we make the most of the time that is probably here. Because if we don't become intentional, life can become a waiting room very easily. So it becomes a waiting room where we're going, well, let's wait to heal. Or a waiting room for apologies. Or a waiting room for the future. Or a waiting room for a promised paradise. And then suddenly the years are gone. Now I think of a Roman Stoic philosopher by the name of Seneca. Seneca. Now, Seneca once wrote that life isn't short because we have little time, but life becomes short because we waste much of it. And so that's deeply uncomfortable wisdom. Not because people are lazy, though they can be, but because fear consumes enormous amounts of human life. Fear postpones living. Now, I want to say something important here, because hope itself is not the enemy. Human beings survive through hope. But history shows us something difficult, that human leadership systems repeatedly overpromise salvation. Religious systems do this. Political systems do this. Economic systems and technological systems do this. So again and again and again, humanity hears things like, soon suffering will change. Everything's going to change. You're going to get universal basic income. Justice is going to come. We're going to get breakthroughs in health. Oh yeah, it's coming. Soon. It's going to arrive. There's going to be abundance, fair distribution of resources. It's going to appear. Folks, it's coming. So meanwhile, what happens to, you can say, ordinary people? Ordinary people continue to age. Now, it doesn't mean that all hope is false. It just means that we mustn't postpone love while waiting for the transformation. So I'm going to go into an old Zen illustration, Z-E-N. A student asks the master, "Master, what is the meaning of life?" And the master replies, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep." Simple. Almost irritatingly simple. But the point is profound. Most humans are rarely present. We're usually replaying the past or rehearsing the future. Trauma especially does this. So trauma traps the nervous system in unfinished moments. And institutional trauma is particularly powerful because it affects not only beliefs but trust itself. So many people from controlling systems, negative controlling systems, carry invisible fractures. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of truth, fear of disagreement, fear of authenticity, and fear of losing one's family. So the result is tragic. So people who love each other become emotionally separated while still physically alive. Please think about that. A family can sit at the same table and yet psychologically live on different planets. Now here's another image. Imagine a beautiful stained glass window. There it is, different colors, but it's shattered on the floor. Now, trauma often convinces us, oh, if I can't restore the original window perfectly, then everything's ruined. But human healing rarely works like that. Sometimes healing is not complete restoration. Sometimes healing is mosaic work. You take the broken fragments and you create something honest from them. Not perfect, but real. I want to talk about the Japanese art of kintsugi. 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 Now, what that does is it repairs broken pottery with gold. You can think of a cup that's fragmented, and you can repair it with this beautiful gold. Now, are the cracks hidden? No. They become part of the story. So I think many families are living through kintsugi conditions, not pristine wholeness, but wounded continuity. And continuity matters. I talk about works in progress. Somebody came on here and was saying, oh, Matt, that's interesting. Work in progress. I said, yeah. Let's have a look at it, because we can still appreciate that work in progress. This is our continuity. That's what matters, because one of the great tragedies of modern life is how easily people become disposable. I used to hear it. I was hearing this. Especially older people. Seen it, not just heard it. So this culture worships novelty, speed, youth, productivity, ba-bam, ba-bam, ba-bam. But wisdom often moves slowly. So an elderly parent may repeat the same story 10 times, maybe more. And yet one day after they're gone, you would give almost anything to hear it an 11th time or one more time. Now that realization comes too late for many people. So I wanted to encourage something practical. Record the stories now. Not later, now. Ask questions. What frightened you as a child? What made you happy? What mistakes shaped your life? What do you regret? What gave you strength? Who did you love? What did you never say aloud? Record the voices. Take photographs. Write things down, because memory is fragile. Now, modern neuroscience increasingly shows that memory is reconstructive, not perfectly archival. Elizabeth Loftus. Elizabeth, Elizabeth, Loftus, Loftus. Elizabeth Loftus became well known for demonstrating how easily memory changes and reshapes over time, which means that preserving stories matters. But there's another reason. When people speak about their lives honestly, they often reclaim dignity. And dignity is deeply healing. Now let's speak candidly and honestly about mortality. Modern society has a strange relationship with death. It gets hidden. We hide it. We medicalize it. We avoid speaking about it. Yet every civilization before us understood something essential. Awareness of mortality sharpens appreciation. The Stoics, S-T-O-I-C-S, the Stoics practice something called memento mori, M-E-M-E-N-T-O-M-O-R-I, 2 words, memento mori. Remember, you will die. Not as depression, as clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, Marcus, M-A-R-C-U-S, Aurelius, A-U-R-E-L-I-U-S. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Again, not nihilism, N-I-H-I-L-I-S-M, not nihilism, precision. So mortality asks, what actually matters? Will this argument matter? Will this ego battle matter? Will this status competition matter? Or will what matter most be kindness, presence, forgiveness, shared meals, music, conversations, laughter, truth, tenderness? So there is an illustration from nature that I often think about. Now, trees in the forest are not isolated entities competing alone. Through underground fungal networks, what some scientists informally call the wood wide web. You heard that. Wood wide web. Wood, W-O-O-D, wide web. Trees exchange nutrients and warning signals. Beep, 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 beep. It's happening underground. Doesn't happen with necessarily sounds like that, but there's signals. Older trees, I'm mixing trees with truth. Older trees sometimes support the younger ones. So you've got Suzanne Simard, Suzanne, S-U-Z-A-N-N-E, Simard, S-I-M-A-R-D. Susan Simard helped popularize research into these interconnected forest systems. Fascinating, really. Now humans are no different. We regulate each other emotionally. That's what the open circle's for. A calm person can calm a room. A fearful person can spread fear. A loving person can restore psychological oxygen. This means that your presence matters more than you may realize. Not just in this open circle, far beyond. Especially in traumatized families. So sometimes one emotionally safe person becomes the bridge, preventing total collapse. Are they perfect? No. It's not because they're perfect. It's because they remain reachable. Now I want to speak about anticipatory grief. This is a grief that begins before death arrives. So a son, for instance, looks at aging parents and already feels loss. A spouse watches illness progressing and already mourns. A family sees time accelerating and panic begins happening underneath ordinary life. This grief is real, but it contains a danger. You can become so focused on future absence that we stop inhabiting present connection. So we start mentally attending funerals while people are still alive. And that steals life twice. So what do? We return to presence. Not a fantasy presence. It's a cup of tea together. A walk, a phone call, a shared joke, watching birds in silence, listening instead of correcting, holding a hand longer than usual. Tiny moments are not tiny to the nervous system. Research in attachment psychology repeatedly shows that consistent small acts of emotional attunement build safety more effectively than dramatic grand gestures. In other words, micro moments matter. So a family doesn't always heal through one giant breakthrough. Sometimes it heals through hundreds of tiny non-destructive interactions. Now I want to address something painful. Many people harmed by institutions feel robbed of time. I heard my father say this. He says he feels like he was held up and robbed. And sometimes they were. Years lost to fear, years lost to conformity, years lost to silence, years lost to stupid, dumb, idiotic meetings. I mean it, really stupid. Years lost to divided families, years lost to impossible expectations, double binds, catch-22s. The grief is legitimate. But there comes a moment where survival asks a new question. What can still be built? Not what should never have happened. That matters too. I'm not throwing that out. But what can still grow? I went outside. I've been germinating these date palms. I love date palms. Germinate them. Let's grow that. But I'm talking about with people we love. People important to us. Because life astonishingly keeps offering openings. A garden after a fire still produces flowers. A forest after destruction slowly regenerates. Coral reefs. A nervous system after trauma can still experience joy again. Not perfectly, but genuinely. Remember Viktor Frankl? Viktorfrankl, Frankl. There's a line from Viktor Frankl that's helped many people. Ready? Everything can be taken from a man, human, but one thing, the last of his human freedoms to choose one's attitude. Now, Frankl wrote this after surviving concentration camps. If you've ever taken a look at Viktor Frankl, you'll find pictures surrounding that. Now, he wasn't denying suffering. He was identifying the remaining territory of human freedom. And in our open circle, in this chat, this talk, that is our real subject. Not defeating mortality completely. Not escaping uncertainty completely. But reclaiming authorship over the remaining time. The clock's ticking for all of us. It's not cruelty. This is reality. And strangely, reality can deepen love. It really can. Because when we realize that moments are finite, they become luminous. The conversation matters more. It gets valuable. The embrace matters more. The music matters more. The ordinary afternoon matters more. So wisdom is not found in conquering time. Perhaps wisdom is found in finally noticing life while there is still life, while it's still here. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for being part of the open circle. I have gratitude for everyone's presence here. If there are people you love, call them. Sit with them. Record their stories. Forgive where possible. And protect your peace where necessary. And build living moments before memory becomes all that remains. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being present. You are the reason we are here. Shall we open our open circle?